Hello, namaste, good morning, good afternoon, or maybe even good evening in whichever part of the world you are joining us from. My name is Deepak R. Khemani, and I am one of the co founders of Bloom. Bloom is the brainchild of Miss Payal Irani. Bloom is a flower that has blossomed and is spreading its fragrance across the globe. At Bloom, we are into physical and mental wellness, trainings, speaking engagements, and creating signature workshops for corporates and individuals desirous of going to the next level. Bloom has a powerful and a dynamic team that has been handpicked. They are the who's who in their respective domains and industry veterans, having an accumulated 200 plus years of experience. At Bloom, we strongly believe in co creation, collaboration, and teamwork. I invite each and every one of you to be a part of Bloom, where together we grow, and as Bloom blossoms, it creates ripples the world over. Let me introduce my co host and the co founder of Bloom, Mr. K.V. Premraj. Premraj is a futurist. He speaks on leadership, management, amongst other things. He is a co author of 4 best-selling books on Amazon. Having spent 37 years in the banking and financial services space, he has worked with both public and private sector banks. He was the CEO of the BPO arm of a leading private sector bank. We have a daring and a dynamic personality today, and I would invite Premraj to take over from here and introduce her and take the show forward.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you for that very kind introduction. Today, we have on the show Lata Verghese, founder and CEO at Questa Enneagram Private Limited, India's first Enneagram-backed talent solutions and personality assessment. She is a leadership development coach and a motivational speaker. Lata brings with her 25 years of rich hands-on experience in the banking and financial services industry, recruitment industry, and in the field of coaching, learning, and development. Having worked with large teams, she understands the importance of being self-aware and how emotionally intelligent teams has a telling impact on the effectiveness of an organization. As an accredited Enneagram certified coach, she brings the insight of granularizing the practical aspects of strategies required to achieve measurable results for teams, individuals, leaders, and organizations. She has conducted over 260 programs and trained over 4,000 professionals from various fields. She co-founded Questa Enneagram in 2020 with an aim to simplify the concept of Enneagram and make it accessible to people from diverse backgrounds. Her vision has helped in bringing the Enneagram personality assessment for the first time in India. The assessments tools created by Questa Enneagram brings both diagnostic and development solutions for organizations. Welcome to the show, Lata Verghese.
Thank you so much, Premraj. It's a wonderful introduction. I thank the Bloom team for giving me this opportunity to come on this talk show on the Sunday afternoon, where we can share a little more about how Enneagram can shape and change the way we think, feel, and act both in our personal and professional lives. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you on board. Let's start now. Please give us a brief on the concept of Enneagram and when and how did your journey of self-discovery through Enneagram start?
So, Enneagram, it's a two, word. Ennea in Greek means 9 and gram is image, right? One of the very ancient tools which has been there for the longest time, and this is one tool which has got the attention of Sufi, which is more Islamic, Kabbalah, which is more of the Jewish and Hebrew religion. It has also touched upon, the Christian traditional understanding of how personalities evolve, right? Putting this all together, this whole spiritual dimension, where psychologists like Claudio Naranjo and Oscar Icazo, John Russo, Russ Hudson, Dr. David Daniels. These are some of the famous Enneagram practitioners who brought it to the US, right? And the US, they started to work with the tool, got into a research to understand whatever has been discussed in the ancient tradition can it be applicable in the day-to-day lives, in the modern, the VUCA world, so to speak, right? The volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment which we are currently facing. And since 1970s, most of the organizations and individuals in the US and across the world have been following the Enneagram tradition, which is more of a narrative way of understanding ourselves. How I discovered Enneagram was, I'll go back and give you a small little brief about myself here. Having always worked in business development and sales, right? The mind is always fast paced when you are in sales, constantly focused outwards towards other people, trying to see how best you can get into a group or a community. From there, to dive deeper into myself, I had to go through a trauma. I lost my brother in 2011 to an accident, right? And it was all of a sudden. That grief and trauma stayed with me for a long time, and I was unable to understand what was happening with me. So I took a step back from sales, business development, because then, that whole concept of getting and talking to people did not appeal to me. I kind of started questioning myself on what is this change which is happening to me. And while I was discovering myself, I also, went through a lot of other personality assessments. To name a few, I did NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah, I did MBTI, which is again a very type-based typology personality assessment. I did my strengths assessment, which kind of talks more about strengths. None of them could give me the answer what I was seeking. Why am I doing what am I doing? And what has suddenly happened to me from that extroverted, chirpy, happy personality? I was now more diving deeper into myself to question the purpose, right? And that is when Enneagram was introduced to me by a very, very good friend of mine. I went through, understood. I took the assessment, and believe you me, when I took the assessment, it was like I'm sure all of you are very aware of astrology, right? When they take our birth timing and the date and the place of birth, they give us this 2-pager which kind of tells us everything about ourselves, our behavioral personality traits, our attributes, why we behave in a particular way. And that is what came out to me when I took my assessment, and I came out a particular personality type. It was like somebody has understood me so well, and why am I behaving the way I behave? And that came out in the report. That was the day when I realized that, Enneagram can actually go places in a country like India, where there are multiple, geographies, demographies, and people from all walks of life can understand and work with this tool, not only in the personal life, but also use it in the professional life. And that's how the discovery happened. I discovered this tool in 2017. I took some time, understanding, going deep into this tool before I and my team, we put this assessment together, which is now more technology driven. People can actually take it by logging in, through their phones or through their laptops, and understand very quickly within maybe just 40 odd minutes what is their personality type, how are they motivated, and why do they do what they do.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this, a very, very engaging story. You mentioned about this Enneagram personality types. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Sure. So I will again take you back to the concept of Enneagram. Ennea means 9 and gram means image. There are 9 different personality types who, if I don't know whether you have seen the image of Enneagram, it is the 9 personality types are interspersed on a circle, right? Each of the types has a distinctly different way of looking at the world. It's like, what is the lens which I'm wearing when I'm looking into the world. Yeah. To give an example, the type 1, what we call as an ethical perfectionist, we have also given a name which explains how these people could be. The ethical perfectionist is somebody who likes to look at the ethical way of doing things, does not want to make mistakes, is very detail oriented. And on this, if this is the strength of that personality, what could be the challenges which this person has? They could be more rigid, they could be more stubborn, and delegating to people could be a little bit of a problem for them, because there is a feeling that I am the best person to do this role, right? So if I just took an example of a type 1 personality, similarly, there are 9 kinds of personalities on this spectrum. So there are 4 elements to understanding Enneagram. One, I get to know about myself, right? What is it which motivates me? I get to know about others. How can I work with others in a relationship? Yeah. And then I try and adapt my strategies. That now that I know that there are areas which I need to work on, how do I move into action? Before moving into action, there is something called adapting and working with my own personality type. And the fourth step is action towards transformation. If I'm stuck in my personality type. So let me give you an analogy, right? Imagine we are staying in a 3-story house, right? The entire 3-story house is available to us. Each and every room in that house is available to us. But over a period of time, from our childhood to our adulthood, there is a situation where we might be using just that one room. We are most comfortable in that room. We sit and read in that room. We sleep in that room. Maybe we even spend a lot of time watching TV in that room. But what about the other parts? There are so many things which we can discover in our own house, but we fail to do that. That's exactly how our personality types are too. Like, for example, if I'm a particular personality type and I'm just occupying that space, and I have not yet discovered there are other elements which can also be used by me, how am I flexible? I'm so fixated in my personality type, right? And when that fixated personality type goes out and interacts with others in the environment, what could be actually happening is there could be a lot of conflicts, because I'm fixated. The other person is also as fixated at me. I think that I'm the best person to do this, and the other person is also thinking the same way, and there goes a conflict. And then we egos get into place. We call it egos, but basically it is our own personality type which is coming into our way of developing and moving forward. So to these 9 personality types, when we look at the 9 lenses and if we observe them in close action while interacting with others, we get to know, wow, this is what this person holds as the most important. Like, for example, if I'm a type 1 personality, I like to do things in a very good way, whereas there is somebody else who goes with the flow. That those 2 types to work together is going to take a long time. They need to first understand that this is the person who likes to go with the flow, and I'm a person who likes to have structure. How can I work with this person in both as a spouse, as a partner in home, or and also in my work environment with my colleagues, my peers, and the people in my organization. So the concept is very simple. There are other factors also which gives more flexibility and freedom to Enneagram, which is typically in the form of how can I adapt and use some other types in the Enneagram to make myself more powerful.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Nice to know there are 9 types. It's very, very interesting concept, and how you can use that to transform your relationships. Very, very interesting. Thanks for sharing it. When we talk about these personality types, can an individual's Enneagram type change over a period of time?
Okay, so our personality basically stems from something called the iceberg theory. If you give me a moment, can I share a presentation which will also help you to understand this better? Please. Just give me a moment, please. So if you can you see this deck? Is it visible to you?
Yes.
Okay, sure. So yes. The Enneagram framework. So if I can explain here, the 9 the personality types which I was talking about here. Each of these types have been given a name, right? Like I was mentioning, a receptive peacemaker, a charismatic controller, a versatile visionary. How do these personality types get formed? This is the question which Prem Raj was asking, right? So the question, if I have to answer that, we have to go back a little, back to our childhood. So there is a psychology theory which says that there is a nature and there is a nurture, right? The nature is a predisposed way of how we are born. We are born with certain DNA or a predisposition to be a particular way. The nurture is how we pick up subtle and we pick up messages from our environment, right? We understand the messages which are given to us by our caregivers, which could be our parents, our siblings, our grandparents, even the environment where we are growing up. Both of them put together form our basic core personality, and that is where our motivation comes from, right? So if I am a type 9 personality, for example, and that is my motivation to be in harmony with my environment and not to have conflicts with others, right? This personality type does not change. But will it help me to be this way? Will it help me to be fixated where I'm unable to handle conflicts? When people around me have an issue with the way I'm thinking and feeling, am I able to talk about myself and express myself? Usually, if I don't get fixated in my personality type, then I have an opportunity of using some other personality types. So let me also take you through to explaining this a little more. Can you see the triangle in between? The triangle which connects a 3, a 6, and a 9, right? And similarly, you can also see some lines which are connecting a 1 to a 4, a 2 to an 8, a 5 to a 7. These are the lines which helps us to understand this is a natural way of progressing and picking up the behaviors of those types which are there in the lines. So let me give you an example here to illustrate my point. Again, I'm taking the example of a type 9 receptive peacemaker. As a person, I don't like conflicts. I like to stay in a place of harmony. Now, how does it translate for me in my work environment? I might shy away from active conflict. I might shy away from even giving my opinions to people. If I can use my line of 3, right? The line of 3 is an ambitious achiever. Ambitious achievers are all about people who are goal setters, who are image conscious and want to achieve the goals. So when you have that, idea in mind that I have to achieve my goal, and hence I have to let go of that feeling of harmony and get actively into that conflict to solve it, I am more open. I'm more open to talking to people and getting the disagreement out into the open and resolving it. Similarly, a 9, when they start using the line of 6, there is the dutiful loyalist, right? Dutiful loyalist is also about looking at backup plans, understanding and working with the community. So as a 9, if I shy away from conflict, if I shy away from talking to people and resolving issues, I can use the characteristics, behavioral traits of a type 6 to bring that flexibility to myself and my personal and professional life. This could be applicable both when I'm handling a very close relationship like that of a spouse, a partner, a father, a parent, a child, etc., or it could be in the professional environment also. So trust that I'm able to explain it with the help of this image. So similarly, if I have to talk about the iceberg theory, which is again part of the Enneagram, right? It was first co-created by Carl Jung, where he says that what is available in the surface to people is only the 10% conscious space, which is my personality and behavior. Other people can see it very easily. Other people can understand it. But what they can't understand is what is my motivation? Where is it coming from? That is submerged within the waterline. And if we are able to understand this motivation for ourselves and for others, life would become more meaningful, more purposeful, and obviously, the action towards transformation becomes much more easier. Any question around this?
No, we'll come to that later on. Thanks for sharing this. As we delve deeper into it, we're finding it much more interesting and exciting. Now let's get back. You mentioned you started this organization of yours in 2020. Mm-hmm. What was the motivation behind that, and what is it that you see your future in this field of work?
Sure. As I mentioned, I started working with Enneagram way back in 2017. When we introduced this tool to India, right? Till then, it was only being used by Western organizations or other multinationals. When we brought it into India, and when we started working with organizations like BHL, NTPC, McKinsey, organizations, and even startups, right? Right now, we are working with some unicorn startups. What we realized was it's important for us to reshape Enneagram to the Indian context. There are most of the tools which are available today are mostly having a Western concept. We wanted to bring in the Indian concept, and that's the reason why we created the technology backup and the assessment, which is much more simpler now to take, right? As I mentioned, half an hour, you'll get to know your personality type, you get to know more about yourself, because you also get a 20-page report along with that. How do we plan to use it? There are three ways we have, thought about it. One is a B2B space, which is going to be more applied for corporates, right? We have already introduced this into corporates. One, for acquisition of their talent and manpower. When they want to get a manpower, what kind of people do they want in their organization? What kind of existing culture do they have? And how do we match the Enneagram personality to that culture, right? That's the acquisition. We also have talent management and high potential employee assessment and succession planning tools, right? This is more, this is also for your middle level and leadership assessment. So that is how our B2B environment is currently. But we also are working on creating an assessment more for students. Now, students could be classified into two sections. One are the school children who have an interest, right? They have a particular predisposition or an interest for a particular field. For example, I love mathematics. Now, would I like to choose a career in mathematics? That is something which I'm not very clear about. So I take this assessment, I get to know that can mathematics be my passion even 20 years hence? Or is it something which is short-lived and I start looking at something else over a period of time? That is something which can come out from the Enneagram assessment. Similarly, the third option of Enneagram can be in relationships. We all know one of the most challenging areas for everyone is, right, maneuvering close relationships. And I could say very easily it is a married relationship, the husband and wife. They get to know each other through a period of so many years, and yet when you ask the spouse, what does your husband or your wife like, or what ticks them off, they would very quickly come back and tell, I very clearly know that this ticks her off or him off. But but what do I do when I have ticked that person off? Can I work around it? Do I know what is it which motivates my spouse to behave in a particular way? If I can get this information together in the form of a tool, I know me and my team, we are quite clear that we'll be able to make a lot of difference to both married couple as well as for couples who are about to step into marriage. So that's how we see the Enneagram taking shape over a period of time. Trust that answers your question, Premraj.
It does, and there were smiles around on all the people who are on camera when you mentioned about personal relationship, especially with the spouse. So it really hit a chord. My last question to you before I hand it over to Deepak. Mm-hmm. What makes Enneagram better than other personality tools that are floating around?
Okay, very important question, and a very interesting one also. One is, once I understand what is my personality, what do I do with that? That's a question which most people have in their mind. I have got to know that this is what is the area of maybe a challenge or a strength in me. What do I do to move from this position to the next, right? That is where most of the personality tools do not offer a very well thought out solution. But here, in case of Enneagram, that's the reason why we chose this tool also. The transformation, as I just go back to that image, what I had shown you, the lines, right, which was available to each of the types, that line is available to me for growth. Yeah. So let me give my example. I am a type 7 Enya personality, a versatile visionary. Yeah. A versatile visionary is all about thinking big in terms of ideas, bringing out expressions in the form of futuristic element, right? People might not have thought about it, and I would have thought about it and started incorporating. But what is something which is going to pull me down is my execution skills, because I live in the world of ideas, right? Moving from one idea to the next kind of invigorates me, keeps me motivated. But if I don't execute my ideas, what's going to happen? The entire it's a flop show. So if you notice, going back, the line of a 7 goes to a 1, that of an ethical perfectionist. An ethical perfectionist is all about putting that idea into action, giving it a shape, giving it a structure, and making sure that it is executed. So from start, from the brainstorming to the finish, which is the end of execution, I have picked up the skill of moving from 7 to a 1, right? That is the growth which became available to me when I started picking up and working with Enneagram. Similarly, the line from 7 goes to a 5. A 5 is a perceptive specialist, a subject matter expert, somebody who's a scientist of the Enneagram, likes to dive deeper into the subject matter. If I float on the surface and try to look at multiple ideas, right, without going down to the depth of what I am learning, I would come across to people mostly as very superficial. People would know that she does not know what she's talking of. She has so many things to discuss, but there is no depth to it. So unless I go and pick up the characteristics or the attributes of a type 5 and become a subject matter expert, I cannot get the respect from my professional community. And that is how Enneagram helps most people to work around the challenges of their own type by going and focusing on the lines which you saw in the image. And that is one thing which is very different from I don't want to put down the other tools here. Other tools have definitely got their advantages, and they have been used for such a long time, but this is definitely a strength of Enneagram which we observed. And that is something which we have brought in while we are also creating workshops for transformational elements for individuals as well as organizations.
Great insights. Thanks for sharing it.
I can see a lot of chats which have come up here. So yes. I will definitely take up these chat questions and answer once, Premraj has finished asking those questions which you have, kind of thought about to ask me. Or would you want me to take up this questions right now?
I will allow the participants to actually, unmute themselves and ask these questions. Now, since the chat is really buzzing, a lot of people have already put in their questions. What we could have done is I would have kept on asking you more questions, but there are 60 people in the audience. There are so many questions being asked. Having the privilege and the advantage of being the co-host, I would like to ask one question and then we will open up to the audience. So the next 30 minutes is there for the audience. You would please ask your question, make it brief, stay to the point so that more people get an option of asking their questions and Lata can answer those questions.
Sure.
So,
yes,
one question is this. I did my test last night and I am personality type 8.
Okay.
Okay. Abhijit also shared with us that he is also personality type 8. Tell us a little bit about personality type 8.
Sure. So let me just explain about a personality type 8. A type 8 is all about being a charismatic controller, right? Some of the famous personality type 8s, I'll also give you an example just to correlate and have a context, right? Golda Meir, the first Israeli prime minister, right? She was the one who took up that very firm stance that when the Munich massacre happened, she said, we need to avenge what happened to Israelis. And that is something which comes out of the type 8, decisive action. Indira Gandhi, again, a type 8 personality. Martin Luther King Jr., again, a type 8 personality, right? These are people who made big explosive changes to their environment, to the place where they worked, and brought in, an element of taking charge and showing that leadership skill, right? Very decisive, very controlling also. Now, controlling could be of people or of the environment. Mostly when, the word controller comes, it always comes with a negative connotation that, this is somebody who's a very dominant personality style. No, that's not true. It is all about controlling the environment to make sure that I can take a decisive action and complete that execution of what I have thought of. So that's typically a type 8 personality.
Yeah, so I am in August company, it seems.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so too many questions. The chat is really buzzing. If you just took up the questions of the chat, other people will not get an option to ask the questions. So I will at this moment open up and allow the audience to unmute yourselves. Please raise your hand. Aditya has already raised his hand. I will ask him to ask his question first, and one by one, I will try and give everybody an option to ask your questions today to Lata. Aditya, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Lata, for the wonderful presentation on personality type. My question may not find the relevance in the principle or the teaching here, but I have a question. Generally, of all the concept around the personality and their test happens only on the junior team members. But the thing is, there might be a problem with the senior or the leading team member 8. But what the organization do, they refer their junior team members to the coaching or the basically going through these exercises. They don't refer the senior team member or the person who is leading these people to these tests, or they don't willingly do it. So don't you think it is a bigger problem than doing the test altogether? Because with whom we have to work, they should also take a test, and it's not like we should only adapt. We can adapt, but it's why not the senior team members are made to follow these exercises, or they stop learning once they get a promotion or become senior?
Point taken, Aditya. Wonderful question. Over to you, Lata.
Aditya, an excellent question.
My question may not be relevant with the teaching or the principle with you taught, but I think you might take this up.
Yeah, sure. Aditya, very, very good question which you have asked here. Now, there seems to be a perception which is there, that only junior members are asked to take the assessment and leaders don't take the assessment. Let me correct that perception, right? I have been working with lots of organizations and we kind of start it top down. We first go to the leaders, right? The CXO levels. We work with them, we pick them up, they do the assessment. They come back and say, oh, this is the culture which we have running in the organization. So let me give you an example, right? We did a personality assessment for this large, organization in the life insurance space. Now, they, as a DNA, they kind of have been talking about caring attitude, right? Caring, they need to be empathetic and caring towards the people. That was far more important than anything else. Now, over a period of time, they also realized that the caring attitude, while it is good and it is good to be empathetic, they were slipping down the market leadership, right? They were the top company in terms of the revenues or the AUM in terms of the insurance space. They were slipping down. That was the reason why they identified and they said, let's figure out what is happening here. When we did the assessment for the senior leaders, it also turned out that the people who are more pace setters, who are more competitive, who want to succeed, who want to kind of set goals and achieve those goals, were also being pulled back because there was a caring score which was being put up by the organization every month. Because they wanted to fall into the good area of the caring score, they let go of some of the aggressive targets which they could have taken. Consequently, the culture in the organization started becoming a little more complacent, right? People had got into their comfort zone. They knew that, they have been working in the organization for a long time. And that is how the organization, kind of promotes people, saying that, okay, fine, we need more empathy, more caring. But what about the bottom line? That's one incidence, right? Then there's another organization which was far too pace setting, too competitive, to a place where, there was a lot of burnout and stress which was happening to the employees. They called us and they said that, why don't you do this exercise with our top leadership? When we did that exercise there, the same, Aditya, for the senior leadership, we realized that it is flowing from the top. The culture of competition, the culture of wanting to achieve results immaterial of whatever is happening to the ground level. Even during Corona, they asked people to come to the office and work, where people were a little hesitant, right? So we have two sets of leaders here. One who focused more on caring and lost a little market leadership, comfortable, yet they want to come back to that place, and the other one where they felt that this burnout and stress cannot continue for a long time and we need to find a balance. So Aditya, in these two places, we didn't do the workshop for the junior people first. We did a top-down approach, and now the culture of the organization is slowly getting transformed. People are realizing, because leaders have realized over a period of time, that they need to change the way they are working.
Wonderful, wonderful.
The question.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bhavna,
Thank
ask
you,
a
thank
question.
Hi, Lata. Thank you, Deepak ji. Lata, this is a brilliant session. I am enjoying every bit of it. It's very insightful. However, I have a question. Most of these self-assessment tests, it all depends upon how accurately and how honestly you're answering the questions.
Yes.
So, is there a likelihood of people mistyping their own personality type? Like something like your Arogya Setu app, people are filling in themselves and they are saying they are not around anyone in X kilometers, people suffering from this. So, how accurate can these tests be, in this case, when people are not able to fill in their details correctly?
Sure. Bhavna, thank you. That's a very good question again. Most of the personality assessments are taken by us, right? By self, and hence we self-report whatever we are feeling. Now, there are two elements to it. When the self-reporting is used for official purposes, right? When my personality assessment is used for promotion or identifying of succession planning or understanding that, am I a leadership material or not? There is always this fear in the professional's mind that, if I'm going to report authentically, am I going to be chosen or not? I don't know, right? There is this element of doubt. Enneagram as a personality typing tool or typology tool transcends that element, because here we are talking about a basic reason or the motivation of why we do what we do. Let me give you an example, right? A question like, life looks like a giant buffet for me. Yeah. And if I say that, do you agree with this statement? There are lots of people, type 7s, who would come back and say, oh, yes, life is a buffet for me. Every day has to be a different day. Every day has to be like different experiences. Otherwise, I feel bored. Otherwise, there is a monotonity. Now, here, there is no reason for this person to report false. What could be the reason why I want to report false? Unless I am not aware about myself. I have not ever, checked what is something which is most important for me. That is the only time when there could be an issue with mistyping. But otherwise, those simple questions, which kind of dives deep into the motivation, brings out the element of personality without going into the mistyping, etc. Bhavna.
Thank you so much, Lata. That's brilliant, beautiful.
Can I just intervene here?
Yes,
Yes,
Sushil.
Doc. Yes, Sushil, sir.
I have worked a lot in this area, and just to share that when I came out from the army and got into the corporate world, in one meeting with an HR head, I got this question: what instruments do you use? So I just looked lost. I said, what are the instruments? I'm not a carpenter or a gardener. I'm a trainer. What instruments? And then I asked a friend of mine, and he told me, there are instruments like MBTI and this and that. So the first thing I did, without knowing any of those tools, I understood what they mean. So next time I could at least answer a question that I know what tools are without knowing them into detail. But then I came across a lady who was an expert in extended disc. She knew nothing about outbound training, which I was doing. And I knew nothing about psychometric tests, which she was an expert. We combined. And I started taking her services for outbound training. So the gap that there could be, the accuracy is not 100%. What Bhavna said is so right, that when I'm answering a question, I'm myself not sure whether I've written the right answer or not. If there are 4 options, I may think that B is a better option. And then I'm confused between B and C, and because there's a time limit always, I just put one of them. Now, There's another very, very important aspect, and that's why I wanted to intervene. When you say, is life a buffet for me? There are people in the corporate world today, I'm telling you, give them this sentence, they will not know what it means. Their perception of the question is not there, and therefore they can't even answer rightly, even if they want to. And therefore, the complexity and the simplicity of the questions become so important. And then, I found that this combination, that in an outbound training, we would look at the performance of a person, the behavior, how he behaves in a particular activity, and observe, and then be able to relate to what corrections are required in a teamwork or leadership. So I found that the gaps in the outbound training and the gaps in the psychometric test, whichever one it may be, could be bridged if you combine the two, because they could cover up each other's gaps. So that is what I wanted to say, that this language, and there are some companies which reported that we don't understand the questions, can you make them in Hindi? And then we did go around translating many of those instruments into Hindi, so that they could get a bilingual thing. They could get a question in English and Hindi both. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigadier Sir, for sharing. Over to you, Lata.
Yeah, thank you. Sushil, very, very interesting point which you have brought about, that yes, if I ask this question that the life is like a giant buffet, people might not be able to answer. Now, it depends on what level of people are taking these questions. So to take care of this, we have also introduced a bilingual option. In fact, not just bilingual, we have introduced multi-language option for the entry level and mid-level from, the other cities and towns where English might not be the primary language, right? We have taken care of that. Having said that, the Enneagram questions are not just 2 or 3. They are, we kind of ask almost like 170, 180 odd questions. And that is one way of identifying and eliminating possible mistypings, right? Because one of the questions I might be a little confused, but if I'm asked a series of questions on a particular Enneagram type,
raise hand karo.
Yeah, some of the chances of me identifying and making a mistake becomes less over a period of time. And what we have understood and realized is that we have got a 94% accuracy at this point of time, which helps us to also understand that yes, people are resonating with their personality type. Something else which as a USP, which we have started to do is right from the beginning, we do a debriefing for all the people who take the assessment. We do a quick debriefing for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes to take them through that, what, this is your personality type, right? Do you resonate with this? If I'm saying that you are somebody who's open to experiences, likes to look at new things every day, is kind of limited by boredom and by pain, and you're not able to express your pain in the form of, emotional coherent sentences, does it apply to you? Yes, people come back and say, yes, it resonates with me. So that document helps them to resonate with themselves, become more self-aware. And Sushil, that bridges that gap, what you were talking about, just bringing in a personality without taking them through a debrief. That's something which we have realized and we have incorporated that. There are a lot of people who have raised their hands. Yes, if somebody wants
Kaushik, go ahead.
Yes. Thanks for giving the chance. In the IT corporate world, if we want to continuously measure the shift of this personality development, is there any way or any proven process that we can apply?
Okay, Kaushik, there was a little bit of disturbance when you were talking. So what I'm understanding, the question was that, is there a way of understanding and working with our personalities to take care of some of the competencies which we need to work on? Am I right in understanding that?
You're mute.
Kaushik, you're mute. You're on mute.
In a IT corporate world,
Yes.
Is there any way of measuring
Yeah.
the transformation of personality development on a continuous basis.
Yes, there is. So that is where we have introduced a type and trait-based methodology. So while as a particular type, I might be bringing some talents, challenges, some strengths to the table. Over a period of time, are my challenges and my derailers affecting my job role? To identify that, what we have brought in are Enneagram-based competencies, right? So for example, again, I can give you an example here. As a type 1, I could be highly conscientious, right? To a point where I might have actually become a workaholic, and I might also be driving my team as hard as I'm driving myself, right? Now, if I were to be given a feedback by my manager saying that you need to go a little slow on your team, it's possible they might make mistakes, but you can give them a feedback and expect them to correct themselves. How do I track this person's growth over a period of time? Has he become less conscientious and has allowed himself to be more emergent? That comes out from our personality assessment, which will help you to understand how you have grown over a period of time, how you have become less fixated and allowed mistakes to, even if mistakes have been made, you don't get angry or frustrated or disappointed that my team is not coming up the curve. You're more gentle with them, and you're also using empathy to reach out and explain and give feedback to them. So that change is visible. Yes, over a period of time, you can keep taking the assessment, at least the competencies, to realize how does it work out. And of course, with feedback and coaching, those areas which have come as a developmental area can be worked on and improved. Trust that answers the question, Kaushik.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kaushik, for asking that question. Ashish Vasishta, go ahead.
I thank you, Dr. Mr. Deepak and Lata, for this intellect meeting and all. Lata, this question is for you in two perspectives. One perspective is professional. I'm a surgeon and I'm a doctor in a corporate setup. With the coming times, new rules are there. So the bosses are not the bosses. The bosses are the man who has to take care of everything. So being a director and having patients with me and the residents, all are COVID positive. So yesterday, the whole day I was in the hospital. So I don't feel so that is a thing, but I just want to know, how do you manage type A personality as a professional and a type A personality as a social man and a family man?
Okay, so Ashish, you're talking of type A and B personalities. If I have to correlate a type A personality to the Enneagram, it would be most likely maybe a type 8 personality, a type 3 personality who's more towards achieving goals and making sure that they are successful, and they are also very clearly, execution oriented. There is an execution bias in whatever they do. That's what I'm basically understanding from whatever you're mentioning. Right now, as a professional, it's very important to set goals for yourself and your team. And typically, as a doctor, as a surgeon, you would be having multiple scenarios where patients might be brought into the last minute into the operating theater because they are very critical. At that point of time, as a type 8, you might have to take very quick call. You cannot ask for permission from somebody else that should I do this procedure or not. Based on the inputs and experience which you have got, you might have to take a very quick decisive call. Maybe at that point of time, as a surgeon, it might have helped you, and it might have established your reputation as a surgeon over a period of time. And that is something which maybe the people around you respect you for. They know that with Dr. Ashish, we can very clearly see ourselves also growing in the corporate environment while also taking care of tough cases and not getting phased by that, right? That is a professional environment. How does it pan out for this personality in the home environment? Now, home is something where, as I again mentioned, that your wife could be of a completely different personality type. What she wants from this relationship could be completely different from what you want. What your children want from the environment or the culture which is there in the house could be very different from what you want. And that is where, you might have to kind of move into some other areas also. Like, for example, I was talking about a type 8. The line from a type 8 goes to a type 2. Type 2 is an empathic nurturer. At home, you might have to remove the hat of the charismatic controller and don the hat of an empathic nurturer to understand what does my wife want, what do my kids want. They are happy with my professional success, but that's not enough for them. They need something more. So as a family man, maybe there is something else which you need to bring out at home, right? And in a social domain, of course, you are somebody who's respected by everyone. So you need to kind of bring in a mix of those two personalities where you appeal to the what you call friendship of people and the larger community, while also bringing in that decisive element of who you are. So in all the three places, you need to bring in a distinctly different personality. And that's what Enneagram allows us to do.
Thank you, Lata. Thank you so much. And amazing inspiration you have given. What I gather, the last word, that at home also and at work also, you have to be happy. And how you can make yourself happy is to make other people happy.
Absolutely.
So whatever work you do it for yourself. That if you do it for yourself, how do you feel? The same thing you transforms to other, and that makes all the happiness.
Absolutely.
Your work should be your hobby. If it is not hobby, just find the other job.
Yeah, absolutely. It has
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Spoken like a good doctor. Spoken like a good doctor.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you. All the best. Nice.
Satish ji, go ahead. Ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Bloom, for this opportunity. Wonderful program. Just wanted to know whether these tests are applicable to young sports personalities or young sportsmen. Yeah.
Yes, it is applicable because we understand what is the basic personality and marry that with the interest inventory. What is my passion and what am I good at? And will I continue this over a long period of time, or is it just a passing fad, which I might give up because there is a pressure on me from the environment to be a certain way, but this is not who I want to be. So that comes out very clearly, Satish, from the assessment.
Thank you, Lata.
Thank you. Kanchan, ask your question.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ma'am, I am Kanchan Kushwa and I am from Bhopal, and I am a student, and this is my beginning, which is I attending this session. So I am feeling so confident after seeing this. So I want to ask, ma'am, from where I can change my personality, and how can I change my personality in language and career also? So could you please explain some tips for me?
So, Kanchan, I would suggest that you take a personality assessment. We can leave you our number, and you can take this quick assessment just to figure out what is your personality type. And my question to you is, why do you want to change your personality? Whatever you are very good, right? You just need to maybe pick up some of the elements of your personality and combine it with the other elements like the lines which I was talking about, and create this powerful element in yourself which will help you to get the kind of job which you're wanting to choose, or the kind of relationships which you want to work with. And that's all. Don't change your personality, just make it more powerful.
Okay, ma'am, I am a MBA student. Now I am pursuing MBA from the TIT colleges, Bhopal. And my stream is, ma'am, HR and banking. Now I am focusing on my English language and personality.
Okay.
So my language is weak.
What is weak, Kanchan?
My English language, my spoken language is weak.
Okay. So see, English as a language, even if it is weak, you still have a way of articulating yourself, right? I could see that in spite, you're saying that your language is weak, English language is weak, but you have managed to communicate what you wanted to communicate with me. So you have a way of expressing yourself. Keep up that expression while working on the language, so to speak, right? But as I again mentioned to you, understand what is your basic personality. And is that personality going with the choice of whatever you have chosen? Like, for example, you have chosen banking and HR. Is it something which you might be good at? Is it a strong interest for you? That is something which we will have to figure out once you take the assessment, and we can have a discussion around it for sure. We can guide you.
Thank you. And Kanchan, stay tuned to Bloom. You will get lots of options to listen to many people like Lata and help you decide what you want to do and how to become better at what you do. Now, going through a few of the questions in the chat, Lata.
Yeah.
in the next few minutes, what you could do is list out these 9 personality types and spend a minute each on each personality, number 1, number 2, number 5, number 8, and give us a few examples of people you could associate with number 1 and number 2 and number 5. That way.
Okay,
All
sure.
the 9, yeah.
Sure. So let me again share the screen here for easy understanding and assimilation. And I'll also give you some famous personality types and some attributes of that personality type, right? That will kind of explain how each of these personalities reflect and think, act, and feel. So let me start with type 1, ethical perfectionist. I did mention about them a little, but I'll again take you back to that. Ethical, wanting to do the right thing, very discerning minds. Perfectionist, wanting to do things without making mistakes. So both of them put together, you have a personality type who can be very exacting in their details, right? Famous personalities are Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela. They can also be big reformers, like type 8s, as I mentioned some time back. They can be reformers, wanting to reform the world and create a difference. That's type 1. Type 2, empathic nurturer, Mother Teresa is a clear example of type 2, wanting to give, right? The essence and the spirit here is to make sure that they are there to help others. They're intuitive enough to understand what does the other person require, and they can put the other person's needs before their own needs and sacrifice their own needs to make the other person happy. That's what an empathic nurturer is. Type 3, ambitious achiever. Some of the famous examples are Hollywood personalities like Tom Cruise, Bill Gates, who's one of the topmost industrialists and has been extremely successful in whatever he has done so far. So they are people who are very good in setting goals and achieving them, can be extremely competitive, are very image conscious, and want to be seen as successful. So that's a type 3 personality. Type 4, intense individualists are people who are who are attuned to the feelings of themselves and others. Like, unlike a type 2 who are more attuned to the feelings of others, a type 4 is also attuned to their own feelings, right? Famous personalities could be A.R. Rahman, M.F. Hussain, who are more known in the creative area, where they bring in an excellence in terms of creating something from, something out of nothing, practically. Type 5, a perceptive specialist, Mark Zuckerberg, Thomas Edison, the scientists of the Enneagram, like to dive deeper into the subject matter, want to be known as somebody who understands their subject and can be consultants for their industry also. These are type 5 personalities. Type 6 is beautiful loyalist. Joe Biden, the current American president, Princess Diana, these are all type 6 personalities. They are very loyal towards the people who they consider close to them. They are people who are very dutiful, as the name suggests, but they're also people who like to be part of a larger community. They want to make a difference to the lives of the people, are very good in getting along with people, and very accountable and responsible. Those are type 6s. Type 7s, versatile visionary, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, these are typically, and the owner of the Forbes magazine. These are some of the famous type 7 personalities. Versatile visionary obviously means they are versatile, multitaskers, bring in a lot of ideas. Visionaries, always future, thinking about the future, what kind of changes are required in the environment, and they are quick to come up with solutions. Those are the versatile visionaries. Charismatic controllers, I did mention Indira Gandhi, Golda Meir, and Martin Luther King Jr., people who are, as the name suggests, charismatic and controlling. Charismatic people who have got this natural element of leadership within them, who are quick to take action, are very execution focused and execution biased. And also trying to control the environment so that they don't feel vulnerable in their environment. Type 9, receptive peacemaker, Dalai Lama and Barack Obama, Queen Elizabeth, they are some of the famous people in the receptive peacemaker. Want to remain in a state of harmony, do not like conflicts, bring in people together, bring in a collaborative element for people to be together in a place where there is more, community thriving element which is present. So that is the typical type 9 personality. So to quickly summarize, just to give you one word, one word for each of these personality types, this is what I could come up with.
Thank you, Lata. And there was one very, very interesting comment in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
It said 9 personality types and we've got 9 planets. Is it just a coincidence, or there is some spiritual, some astrological, some connection over there?
It is purely coincident. Brigadier Sushil Bhasin has said that I'm familiar with many psychometric instruments, but this has been a new exposure. I loved it. And your confidence and expertise have made it much more clearer. Thank you. Thank you so much, Brigadier. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I just wanted to ask one more question, if I can.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Lata, is it that you'll only have one of these 9 personalities, or can you have a combination?
You can have a combination. Now, here I will like to bring in the Triune Theory propagated by Paul MacLean, right? He says there are 3 brains within us. It is not just the thinking brain, it's also our feeling brain and our body-centered intelligence, right? And there is all the 3 have a role to play in the way we think, we act, and we feel. So, for example, when I have to take an important decision, first I might be somebody who feels how is my spouse going to think when I'm going to look for a new job? Is he or she going to be okay with me shifting jobs and moving to a different city? I'm feeling for that person before I take a call. That's my feeling center. That could be represented as one of the personality types. Then I'm using my logical brain. You know what? If I move to this other city and if I'm getting a higher package with this company, it's going to be better for my family. It is making more rational sense for me. It's making more logic to shift and take up this job. That's my thinking brain into action. The third one, the action intelligence, is more in the form of gut instinct. There is something which tells me that, yes, I'm making the right call. I think this move to this city is going to do good for me and my family. Let me do that. That is my gut instinct, which is giving me this data without having any kind of data. So all the 3 put together allows me to take a very balanced decision. And that is when it is represented in the Enneagram circle. Though my dominant personality type could be one of those, but I might be using a thinking center, a feeling center, and an action center. So, we are more than our personalities.
Yeah, we are more than our personalities.
Yes.
Yes. Very, very well said. I mean, if everybody could just, be decoded, if it were, just by answering a few questions, then the world would have been a very, very easy and simple place to live in.
We are planning Deepak. We are planning to decode it, bringing it out. Let's see how successful we are. But that's the initiative. Yes.
So there was this discussion about false positives and false negatives, and somebody not answering the questions correctly. And this is one thing which I have observed not only in the Enneagram test which I did yesterday, but all other personality type tests, whichever ones you do, which are available in the market. Many a times the same question is repeated in slightly different words or in a slightly different language on another page or, in another part of the same survey. I'm sure this is being done just to see that there are no false positives or no false negatives. So that, if a person has answered this question on this option, if he's right and if he's consistent, then that same question, even though it is worded differently, is answered in the same way and you get that same result.
Yes, that happens.
That happens. Yes. We also measure consistency. Yeah, how consistent we are in answering the questions, because higher the consistency, the greater the accuracy of the results are. And in case the consistency is very low, we do ask the person to take the assessment again after having spoken to them, right? Because that also depends on the level of self-awareness which that person is bringing to the table. And also the fact that some people might be trying to beat the assessment and trying to be smart there, right? We have to take care of that element also.
Yes. There will always be people who want to beat the system or you want to bypass the system. Always.
Absolutely.
And also particularly in extended tests, we get sometimes you get a report saying report inconsistent. It doesn't, the system doesn't give you a report because your answers have been inconsistent.
Absolutely. Yes. That's the same thing with us also, Brigadier. We also give an inconsistent, reply, and then we ask them to get in touch with us in case we can't really establish a personality type. What's the use of giving them a result at all? So
which also gives us a comfort that, robots and machines are still far, far away from taking over and deciding and ruling the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It is still people who will continue to rule the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a Sunday afternoon. It is 1:36. We are way past lunchtime, and we still have 51 people glued in on their electronic devices in this virtual room, listening to what Lata has been telling us, teaching us. Lata, we are looking forward to collaborating with you to provide these services and these tests to people connected with Bloom, to organization connected with Bloom. So looking forward to, as the Bloom says, it is co-creation, collaboration, and transformation together. So a few words from our founder, Payal Irani, before I hand it over to Premraj for the official closing. Payal.
So Deepak, I'll just like to say something. I'll first
please go ahead, Abhijit. Please go ahead.
So I'd first like to thank Sara, who was the one who introduced me to Lata, or who introduced us to Lata, so that we could get in touch with her so quickly. And this was a wonderful session. And I think a lot of value add for all of us. And looking forward, Payal, take over. Yeah. Thanks.
Namaste, everyone. Gratitude, Lataji, for gracing Bloom platform. I personally work on psychogeometrics. It's another tool. And just listening to you 1 hour, I'm flabbergasted. So looking forward for more insights from you. And thank you, Sara. Thank you, Enneagram team. And thank you, beautiful audiences. Premraj, welcome back after a break. And over to you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Payal, and thank you, Lata, for a masterclass and a very insightful session.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was instructive, educative, and thought-provoking. We go back with a lot to ponder over in the days to come. Thank you, participants, for making the show exciting. Thank you once again, Lata, and God bless.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity again, Payal, Premraj, Deepak, and Abhijit, for giving me an opportunity to talk about this wonderful tool, Enneagram. And definitely, Deepak, I would look forward to working with your organization and taking this to the next level. Thank you so much.
Thank you.